Blade and Sorcery is one of the best virtual reality games on the market. I'd flat out say the best if it weren't for Half-Life Alyx, but that's not a fair comparison. We'll get into why at the end. It's been about 3 years since Blade and Sorcery came out in early access and has been receiving updates ever since, but the core of this game has stayed relatively untouched. Combat in Blade and Sorcery is what we all hoped Skyrim VR was going to be. But yeah, let's break it down a little bit more. The weapons you and opponents swing around interact with other objects. Yes, objects. As in, yes, other swords and shields, but also walls, tables, the ceiling. VR isn't at the stage where the controller can stop you from physically moving when you run into a virtual obstacle.
Okay, I did just punch my ceiling light.
But the game knows that and stops your weapon from continuing movement the best it can, and it's usually really good about that. But you can't just lug around the biggest weapon and expect it to fit through doors with.
Alright, this is now immediately impractical.
Another big problem with Skyrim VR was you could swing your weapon as fast as your hands could go and they would deal full damage all the time. You could just put a warhammer in a guy and flick your wrists and he would explode. Blade and Sorcery makes it so you have to actually use your weapons correctly. Well, kinda. Here's an example. Some swords are specifically for piercing attacks, so if I try slashing with it, I'll probably still do damage, but no one's going to die anytime soon. Or like here, this enemy is wearing metal armor. I'm not about to slash through that, and I'm not good enough to land a piercing shot on his exposed face, so I very clumsily switch where I'm holding the sword so I can use the hilt as a bludgeoning tool. Alternatively, I could have just swung the sword in a way that made the flat side of the blade hit him instead of the sharp side. This isn't me teaching you how to play, do whatever you want. This is me admiring the care and time Warp Frog put into this game, making sure everything is doing what it would actually do. You can also use those same weapons defensively, and this is probably the best feeling in this game for me. That or this.
You should not have come here.
But so far we've only covered half the title. See, the game is called Blade and Sorcery. The base game, Sorcery, is limited, but the last update did some overhauling. First, there are 3 spells: Fire, Lightning, and Purple. Fire lets you shoot guided fireballs. Lightning is dark side force powers, and Purple is like gravity manipulation, but you can also use it to throw people around or push them or pull them toward you. Update 11 now allows you to dual cast these spells. Fireball makes a giant meteor explosion on impact. Lightning does one powerful concentrated lightning attack that I didn't capture on footage because I suck with it. And Purple makes a low gravity field. Oh, and you can yeet yourself by force pushing the ground with both hands. I also learned you can use force push on people and incoming fireballs. Without a doubt, just the act of dual casting the low gravity field is the coolest, most immersive part of this game to me. You have to bring your hands together and make this Mewtwo looking shadow ball and rip your hands apart and let go of the spell, and it just flies out. Seriously, if this was all Update 11 was, I would not have complained. The magic can also be used to temporarily enchant weapons. Fire on a sword makes it easier to pierce metal and leather armors. Lightning weapons are the fantasy equivalent of tasers. And Purple Sword, I don't know, it also makes the enemy purple? I think it makes them easier to throw, but my tiny lizard gamer brain doesn't see how that helps me hit guys with frying pans easier.
Eat dirt.
They also added a magic staff you can use to imbue magic, the same as the normal weapons. I'm not entirely sure how they work, but I know if it touches the ground, it has a magic effect tied to the element in the tip. There's also a built-in slow motion button, so if you're getting overwhelmed, you can slow down time and give yourself a quick breather or quickly cut someone down. You can also grab people and throw them around. That's really all I have to say about that. It's just really fun. The game is definitely not without bugs. But if that's what it takes to have this game now instead of waiting for the full game in a few years, then I'll take it. There's a bunch of arenas, but I personally only play in this procedurally generated castle place. It really lets me play how I'm feeling at the time. Such as, do I want to stealth around, start with no weapons and only use what the last guy had, or just go in loud and fight all the room enemies at the same time. The place is also gorgeous, especially after this last update. I could walk around through this place without enemies and still feel like I got my money's worth. It really feels like what the game was meant to be, and I could spend hours in there every day if I didn't get physically worn out by smashing people's heads open with frying pans.
Oh, you're still alive?
The icing on the cake of Blade and Sorcery is the mods and the mod community. Unfortunately, that 2-meter long sword is not vanilla, I know. No, neither is the frying pan, I'm sorry. In fact, most of the weapons you saw in this video are mods. But the mods for this game are insane. There's a mod called The Outer Rim that overhauls the game into Star Wars. The enemies have lightsabers. There are honestly really good blaster models that actually shoot new arena levels in the Star Wars universe. It's incredible. Blade and Sorcery is actually the best Star Wars game too, apparently. I have to give a shout out specifically to the modder Sushin, who makes the medieval mega pack, which adds just too many weapons. I mean, this game on Nexus has over 5,000 mods, and it's in early access. Don't misunderstand, vanilla is great, but those weapon packs from Sushin are essential to my gameplay. Now, at the beginning of the video, I said this game was really only topped by Half-Life Alyx. But let's put this into perspective a little bit. Half-Life is made by a team with every resource imaginable at their fingertips, years of time being paid to make that specific game, and access to some of the best writers in the gaming industry. Blade and Sorcery is the first game made by this independent development team and is in early access. Those are night and day differences between these games' productions, and look how closely they came in quality. Really, this is just one of the funnest games in my library. If you have VR and don't have Blade and Sorcery, you're doing it wrong. Seriously, while editing this video, I took breaks to play more Blade and Sorcery that I didn't even capture. The devs at Warp Frog have made it clear in community posts that they have big plans and that the game has a long way to go. But if this is what the game looks like at this stage in early access, then at release, it just might be asking Half-Life Alyx for that crown she's been wearing for the last 2 years. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed watching as much as I did making. If you liked it, subscribe and check out some of my other stuff on my channel, and I'll see you in the next one.